We're on page 76. Starting with we then look at step 6, top of the page. We then look at step 6. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? Can he now take them all, every one? If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us to be willing. When ready, we say something like this: My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strengths as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. We have then completed step 7. And I'll leave it there, Paul, because I thought today I could use, and maybe some others could as well, some insight into step 6 and 7.
Well, thank you, Jacob. Nice to see everybody. We share a view here, and that proved incredibly helpful to me. And that view is what we call the exact nature of the wrong, as presented on page 64. And a lot of people who have been defeated by self, let's use the terminology of AA, try to describe what it's like being possessed or taken over or driven. So we take that a little more further and make it a concrete idea that self is foreign to us. Yeah, it's just that simple. So sort of like when you're sick and demonstrating the characteristics of a flu, hopefully you don't believe you're the flu. Yeah. So no matter how fluish you are, how sick you get, you don't think you're the flu. There's a sense of separation. And in a way, then the flu sort of dissipates after a few days or 10 days or 5 days. And now it's as if you were never taken over by the flu. Now, my feeling about this disease, if you want to call it that, which would be a flu, a disease is worse because it's chronic and it can end up being terminal. But this foreign activity that takes us over resides in the head. And so the head, its narration of life is through a very, very myopic lens called self-centeredness. And if you have experienced receiving all the data of your life through self-centeredness, it gets to the point where everything is seen as how it pertains to you. Yeah, you see how you see everything is how it pertains to you, which is self-centeredness. And this self-centeredness, I humbly believe, maybe can be taught a little bit, but it can't be taught how to get out of self-centeredness. So self can't get out of self. So if you're looking through the lens of this system and you identify as the system, your desire to get out of the system will be thwarted because you'll try to get out of the system as the system. Yeah, so self cannot get out of self. So if the foreignness of what has defeated us is identified as somehow being us, we're probably going to be open to more defeat. Yeah, even when we're in recovery. So the bondage of self travels through active addiction through into recovery quite easily, really. It just changes its wardrobe, its presentation, its sort of first impression, but over the years you'll realize something. So this is the exact nature of the wrong presented with the statement being convinced self. And being convinced, obviously, if you've been introduced to recovery, being convinced is where a lot of things gets launched. That's one condition we are required to check out, which is being convinced. So the first step is being convinced that we're basically fucked and that we're not managerial quality. And so being convinced self manifested in various ways. We all know what the word manifest means. Some things appear or happen, they manifest. So self manifests in various ways is what has defeated us. What? Yeah. So self has defeated us. I feel we are in the us camp and self is foreign to us. Yeah. Simple as that. It's very important because the head where the problem resides is in the act of being identified as self. So if you're listening to the head with great devotion and faith, you're going to take yourself to be self all fucking day. And then when you try to get out of it, you'll be captured by the statement, self can't get out of self. Voila. So when you do the inventory, there's one way you can do it, which is we're going to look at the common manifestations of self in our lives and see how self has defeated us. Okay, what's the first one? Resentment. Now, here's a simple litmus test, very easy. When there's a noticing of resentment where you are, what is it called? It's usually called your resentment. Yes. There's the act of being bound to self. As simple as that. Self in the big book is a manifestation. Resentment is a manifestation of self in our lives. Why are you calling them yours? Yeah. Fear is a manifestation, and actually it's mental anxiety strumming the chords of fear. Fear is a valid emotion. It's very, very valuable when you're in a threatening situation. But the head is playing with that fear with mental anxiety. Yeah, usually you are afraid of something that's actually not happening right now. That's all happening in the head where the problem resides. So, and then the third one is harming other people in the pursuit of what you want, meaning you're selfish and inconsiderate. You don't give a shit about the other people. You want to get what you want to get. Yeah, so your life is driven by self-will, which is not going to be successful. So we are looking at how self has defeated us through the inventory process. Okay. So then you share that with somebody, which is the fifth step, and more illumination will be cast on it because someone who doesn't have a vested interest in yourself is going to be pretty honest about yourself. And that you may not be able to be that honest about yourself. So you listen to the person and now you have some clear understanding of how you're getting defeated. And what occurs is you're living a life of sobriety. You're in the habit of being sober. You've followed the suggestions. They have produced an effect. You were sincerely taking the position. Now you may be established in it. And what happens is when the head presents the disease of self, hopefully you recognize it as not you and you bring it to step 6 and 7. Yeah. And you ask this power that has gotten you sober, is keeping you sober, to remove or reconfigure this shit that you've noticed is not, it is a foreign element that is living in you. When it's now brought into the light, we bring it to step 6 and 7. This is how the program works. Yeah. We do not start trying to manage it. We don't try to work it. We don't try to figure, oh, I've got to stop doing this that you can't stop doing. No, you bring it to step 6 and 7 and you ask it to be reconfigured. I like that word because I don't believe you can destroy energy. I don't. I believe energy is energy, but it takes different forms how we look at it. So there you go, 6 and 7. Now, if you get into the habit of 6 and 7, you're going to actually be relieved of 8 and 9 because you're not going to fucking act out. And you're not going to have to make a list of who you owe an amend to, and you won't have to make an amend. Yeah. This is the beauty of steps 6 and 7. Yeah. It doesn't allow that foreignness to take hold and leave an impression in your life, which you're going to have to clean up, which is steps, through step 8 and 9. So you do step 6 and 7 and you live a life free of 8 and 9, really. Yeah. I'm not going to look to make an amend if I don't owe any amends. Yeah. And when do I usually owe amends is when I'm driven by self. I have now not been driven by self for quite a while, and I don't have a list of fucking amends. I don't. You know what I mean? So it's really quite efficient, because a huge process of the program, it's there, but it doesn't need to be used because the shit's getting recycled before the shit makes an appearance in your life. Yeah. We want to catch the manifestations of self before they manifest in our lives. Yeah. And how do we do that? We notice them by doing the inventory and having that like very ceremonial demonstration of doing an inventory and going over it with someone else, 4 and 5. Now what gets constantly revealed is a lot of shit about what we're not. We bring that to 6 and 7. Yeah. And there you go. And then there's a leapfrog, 10, 11, 12. You're in the habit of that. Yeah. Yeah. And you've adopted the AA agenda, which is to practice these principles in your affairs. If you can't do it yet, limit the affairs and help other people achieve sobriety. There you go. Yeah. So you got the attitude, 1, 2, 3. You've done the working steps. Yeah. 8 and 9 was an incredible, important aspect. Now that you're in the habit of being sober, 8 and 9 isn't that important anymore, because really what's important is step 6 and 7. Yeah. And then you leapfrog to 10, 11, 12. And at this point, you're already in conscious contact. If you're not a great meditator, you have tons of ways to improve your conscious contact. Taking walks. Yeah, just living, breathing will improve your conscious contact. Yeah. Prayer and no prayer. I believe I used prayers until they hit a point where I didn't need a prayer anymore. This is part of the process. Yeah. Yeah. So 6 and 7 have been the most active steps in the last, I'd say, 20 years of sobriety, to tell you the truth. Yeah. I see stuff in the dreams, which are old patterns of how self has defeated me. When I wake up, and if I remember that dream, I bring it to step 6 and 7. I go, hey, I'm entirely ready. It's just came out of the oven. Yeah, I'm entirely ready for this to be reconfigured. And I humbly ask that power to do it. Yeah. And I have such faith in the process, because that power that I'm turning this shit over to is the same power that struck me sober and introduced me to the way of life I needed to stay sober. Yeah. So I have a lot of oomph in that faith that projects this shit from seemingly me through the recycling of step 6 and 7. Yeah. Not for the purpose of me getting greater, but to making me of maximum use. Yeah. For myself and others. Now, I don't know what that maximum use is going to look like, but I can observe it when it happens. Yes. And I've observed a lot of it. So, yeah. And the funny thing, the guy asked about, is this one-time meeting? No, because I'm in the act of being sober, we show up every freaking Tuesday. And people volunteer to open up the room. And we have this platform available to others if they want to check it out or not. Yeah. Yeah. So in my case, it's every Tuesday. Yeah. Why is that? I mean, if you've been relieved of the bondage of self, yeah, you're going to show up Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, you can say it'd be great to get $1 million, but really to be able to travel lighter through this life, whatever it has in store for you, by being relieved of the bondage of self, I can't beat it. Yeah. I just can't beat that gift. So, yeah. So yeah, step 6 and 7. Hopefully, if you do an inventory, you just take a 5-minute, do a small one. And instead of calling them your resentments and your fears and your harming others, maybe with the spirit that you were driven, that decisions were made based on self, that put you in these positions, all this shit, maybe take that view that something drove you to these behaviors, that you did not choose to behave that way, and start getting fucking relief from the past. Because a lot of people I know who have tons of years are still being held by a chain based on being the doer of shit they didn't really actually do. They were driven to do before they were sober. I mean, seriously, there's enough shit happening in the present moment. You want to have a large slab of past here? I mean, festering with guilt and shame and remorse. Come on. That's not making you of maximum use, is it? No. So yeah, that's 6 and 7. It's only got 2 paragraphs, but as an activity, it's probably going to be the most used one at a certain point in recovery. Because what gets revealed to you? Yeah, a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff gets revealed about self, and a lot of stuff gets revealed about the higher power. Yeah, it does. You're just awake. I'm not, sitting to be, to have a revelation. A revelation just shows up. Yes. Because the basis of my life is a larger, the runway, the tarmac is large enough to allow miracles to fucking land. Yeah. We're not in a war zone anymore. So what gets revealed? A lot of the stuff about what I'm not. Yeah. And let's treat it that way, that it's not you. Yeah. And if you want validation from the big book, I don't know. I was brought up in in English, and it doesn't make sense with that statement. Self sounds like it's like foreign to us. In the one sentence, it says, this is what has defeated us, self, and then this is what has been defeated, us. They're not the same thing. Yeah. How can you see it as the same thing? Self is completely presented as the defeater, and we're presented as the defeated. Yeah. And how does the defeater defeat the defeated? I believe it's the act of being identified as self. I believe if you see alcoholism sort of like a non-entity parasite, in other words, it's not a thing, but let's say it's a mental infection, yeah? This parasite of alcoholism or addiction is so hostile to the host, it had to come up with a great fucking strategy to do what? To neutralizes the host's ability to be free from it, yeah? To neutralize that ability, which is always there, to be free from that parasite, has been neutralized by the act of being identified as the parasite. And they discovered this was going on in our recovery communities, and they presented it as self can't get out of self. Many, many people have tried to get out of self without knowing it, being in the act of identification as self. Many, many people, to a point it's become a statement in our community. Yeah. Self can't get out of self. Exactly. To me, that's hallelujah, because I don't believe I'm in self. Seriously. The idea that I can't get out of self is a hallelujah, because it triggers that I can't be in self. Yeah. I can be taken over by it. I can be driven by it. Decisions can be made on it, but I am not it. Yeah. I am of a nature, not of a parasitical nature. Fantastic. Yeah. What's going to reveal that to me? The parasite? No. But the higher power? Yes. I got to open up that communication by having a life of sobriety, in the habit of being sober, because you're going to pick up new radio stations that have a much different attitude and outlook about you than the old radio station. I cannot believe people today are waking up in our community believing they hate themselves. I cannot believe this. I cannot believe we're putting up with this for a fucking second, or that they are their own worst enemy. I cannot believe that we allow that to be said. Yeah. Something may hate you. It's not you. It's not you. You are not full of hate. You may be used to express hate, but I do not believe you're full of hate. I do not believe it. And I do not believe you're your own worst enemy. Yet some of us, when we describe our conditions, that's what they say. Yeah. There is a solution. We'd be talking about other shit right now if there wasn't a solution. There is a solution to this. Yes? There is a solution. It flits me out a little bit. I did a talk up in Hudson Valley with Jacob at this little street clinic, which was great. And on the side, as you walked in, you know where they used to have break the glass and there'd be like a fire alarm? There was Narcan there. Like the buildings, the restaurants have to have signs. We have a Narcan thing, like dispenser at the bar in their bathrooms, because so many people are overdosing in the bathrooms. That's insane. Yes. Doesn't it feel like for many of us, a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body became a hopeless state of mind and body? And at that point, that's where the self-hate is. That's where I'm my own worst enemy. Yes, remember? No one you knew would have ever treated you like you seemingly treated yourself, would they? The person who hated you the most wouldn't have enough energy or effort to even put 1/8 of the whacking we took almost every day. And to call it us is unbelievable. Yeah. Would you treat anyone the way you treated yourself?
No.
Because you didn't treat yourself that way. Something treated you that way. Get over this fucking idea that you're the doer and the end all and the beginning of all shit. You're driven. You are not the wind. You are a sail. You're going to be moved by what wind's blowing in you. We've lived a life of addiction. We know where we get blown by that. We're now living a life of recovery. The sail does not become the freaking wind. You're either being driven by faith in the infinite or faith in finite self. And if you're identified as self, there's a huge amount of faith in self there. And that huge amount of faith can be demonstrated as I hate myself. I am my own worst enemy. Wow. When the other way of looking at it hasn't worked. Yes, you're not going to make self a service animal. It's not going to join the kumbaya line. It isn't. It's got a foreign parasitical nature. For it to win, you have to lose. Yeah. You can go do all the therapy you want and try to go over every trauma that it engendered in your life. It's still going to be a bondage of self. Instead of like an iron metal handcuff, you'll be in a silver handcuff. But the bondage of self will still be the dominant view, the dominant situation. We're asking in our prayers, please relieve us of the bondage of self. How could you say that if you're self? It says, please relieve us of the bondage of self, other. Yeah. And the self has you as a doer, and it's crucifying you every day by your past transgressions that it drove you to fucking do. Yeah. I've seen the chain from the past I've seen people with 50 years of sobriety, and you can hear those chains making a noise as they're dragged across the meeting room. Give me a fucking break. You didn't do it to begin with. Look at the head. Is there any mercy in the head? Does the head have statute of limitations? 30 years, even in America with the judicial system, after 12 years, a lot of fucking crimes are annulled. You've lived out the statute of limitations. Where is the statute of limitations in where the problem resides? Where? You hope for probation and parole and you never get it. You never get it. You make one little mistake, it's on top of you again. Jesus Christ. This worked for me. When I saw it as not me, the possibility of being free from it became available. It's just that simple. I saw in that sentence, self, as something foreign to me. The possibility of I could be free from it became available. And then life gave me a very quick review of my life. And I could see most of my life was self trying to get out of self. I was trying to get out of me as me, and I was not that me. I wasn't the me I was in, and I wasn't the me that was trying to get out. Yeah, so that's the message of this platform. Yeah, we don't deviate because I humbly believe if you don't see this, you're going to be looking from the bondage of self. Yeah. You'll become very clear how everyone else fucked you, but you'll be blind to the elephant in the room. Yeah, so what's the point of that knowledge? Avails us nothing. So, yeah. So 6 and 7. Why 8 and 9? It was so important because we were not seeing the birth and the manifestations of self, yeah, in our lives. We came to recognize we were defeated after a fucking incredible pummeling. Now we have the eyes to see before the defeat. And step 6 and 7 is really the precursor before the defeat. Yeah. Bring this stuff that you realize is old and fucking dead and bring it to that recycling 6 and 7. Yeah. See what happens. You're going to be that interest and attention that the head's using to enslave you to the past and all these worries about the future will enrich your day today, whatever day it is. It will enrich you. You'll feel fucking alive. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really
Yeah, go ahead, Jacob.
It's really beautiful, Paul. I never thought about it this way, but it's like returning to the middle after having been around the circle of the steps. Like 6 and 7 is a perfect split between 1 and 12.
Yes.
And so in a way, at least how I'm seeing it now after hearing the talk and what little I know, yeah, it seems that step 4 is there to give a view of the manifestations of self. Step 5 gives us that outside perspective, that new view. And then 6 and 7 is a way of dealing with, transfiguring, reconfiguring those manifestations of self, either preemptively before 8 and 9, all the way to 12, or after the fact, before getting to 8 and 9.
Yes.
Yeah, would that be fair?
Yes. And see, the thing is, the self has used the energy of our life to form its own life. And it tries to crystallize it and fucking make it like a petrified life, so to speak. Yeah.
Right.
And this is where life gets back to the present moment. It gets rejuvenated with an aliveness, because the head has been using it to deaden your life, to have you live an interpretation from the view of self. And we're breaking out of that and living again. Yes. Yes. So it's sort of like if you just had tons of water that was frozen in those little ice cube trays, all you got to do is bring it into the light or into some warmth. You don't have to break it into it. It's going to melt.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
And
Yeah.
then that water is going to be put to a different use than you would with the ice cubes. Yes. This is it. So our energy, we've been captured. I mean, look at it. We're like a fish that has a 50-year-old hook in it. You know, you're a fish, think, oh, I did this thing when I was 11. It's just insane. It's insane to me. Yeah. You're not going to change it, but you can weaken it greatly by seeing it as not you. This is not about changing it. This is not like, all right, we're armed now with an understanding. No, it's not about changing fucking anything. It's about seeing it. Yeah. And if it's not you, you're going to lose interest in it. Yeah. Yeah. And then that interest that was in it, that you've been trying to get more interest in self with that interest, is now going to enrich your day. Yeah. You'll hear the birds more. You'll feel wind. You'll be basically at your present address, here and now. I never for a second think about I have to get into it the moment. Never. I just humbly believe you can't be out of the moment. I have no desire to get into the moment at all, ever, at least for years now. Because I humbly believe you can't get out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, it makes up a fake straw man, and then you go to battle with it. You've heard it's a great sword master, and you have to get a black belt to go fight it and try to vanquish it. No, it's killed by loss of interest. Like St. Francis says, it's in self-forgetting. Yeah. What would be self-forgetting? A loss of interest in self. Yes. Self-forgetting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're reborn. What? Yeah. So the requirement, same thing in recovery in the book. Everything pivots on losing interest in self on page 63. You start losing interest in self. You now gain interest in others, and you look at life and what you can contribute it. The view starts to change radically, not because you worked on the view, but you lost interest in self. Yes?
Yeah.
The view is going to regroup. The view is going to do its thing. Yeah. The thing is losing interest in the idea of self, and self cannot lose interest in self. That would be more interest. Yeah. So there's warnings about it, because this identification's tricky. Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of like, let's say you got taken by the flu, and the flu jacked into your head, and then the flu started talking like as you could probably be having a flu for like years, literally. Yeah. You, without knowing it, the flu would be talking like you to you, and you'd be living as a flu, so to speak. There would be a new meeting, non-flu anonymous. Yeah. But this is what's happened. The disease has jacked into the head and talks to us as us. Yeah. If you don't think this is possible, there's tons of information about natural parasites that do the exact thing. They take over some creature, they jack into its brain, and they don't have legs, but the creature has legs, and they want to get somewhere. So they dictate to the creature its agenda. And the ant takes the mushroom spore to where the mushroom spore wants to go. Once it arrives, it kills the ant, and the mushroom grows right out of the ant's head. This is like a parasitical movement. Sounds like us. But there was some relief for the ant. It probably didn't have a story. It was doing it the whole while. It was going to where the mushroom, like we do. We have a fucking story that we're the doer of the whole journey. That's insane. Yeah. I don't like humidity. I don't like darkness. I don't like mold. I don't like this. But here I am. I must hate myself. No, you're still not seeing it. Something took you over. Yeah. This is the only one I know to throw out in the water. It is. This is how it happened with me. Maybe there's hundreds of different ways. This is the way it worked. I'm throwing it out there from one member to other members. Yeah. I have such faith in it. We'll have a platform and show up here every Tuesday and Thursday. I do not believe you can be free from it if you're identified as it. I just don't. And the head has you identified as the parasite. It does. Yeah. So there you have it. This is all based, though, on there is a solution. Yeah. There is a solution. Didn't you believe all the shit you did? The only solution to the addict is more drugs. Yeah. That was the solution. Were you having a lot of fun at the end? I wasn't. Yeah. But that was the solution. The only one I thought was available was to make myself completely out to lunch so I could make it through another day, not going to jails, death, and an institution. And I even gave up that hope after a while. And I was just getting myself ready by being obliterated for the next jail, institution, or death situation. Yeah. Because I did not have a possibility of being free from it. It didn't seem to be there. And there was so much faith in that belief, I would do fucking anything. I would pay any consequence tomorrow not to feel uncomfortable for about 5 minutes. Yeah? Any consequence. It was that extreme. To be relieved of that. Oh, man. This is one of the greatest solutions. The problem will not exist for you anymore. So, yeah, Jacob, I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally grateful.
Just read the book and look at the word self. It says you've lived under self-imposed crises. That's not you imposing it. It's self-imposed. It says, hey, if people step on your toes seemingly without provocation, if you take a look at it, you're invariably going to find there was a decision based on self that puts you in the position to be hurt. Yeah. What? Yeah. You're driven by 100 forms of shit. That doesn't seem to mean or reinforce that you're the driver, does it? No. It sounds like you're the vehicle for something to express itself through. Yeah.
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 Paul, we got Linton has his hand up. Linton, I believe.
Yeah, Linton, hi there. It's good to be here with you all. Yeah, it's really, I've loved hearing what you're saying there, because the 6 and 7 are 2 steps that I can get so hung up on the words in. I've been around this program for like 20 years and I keep walking away from it. And I latch on to stuff like defects of character and shortcomings and God's will and self-will. And it makes me want to throw the whole thing away. And every time I do, I end up back where well, where we all end up, I guess. And it's a horrible place, like you're describing. And I'm just coming back in again now, and trying to have a fresh experience of this. And it's funny that today is, you know, that reading from 6 and 7, because I can immediately feel all my preconceptions coming up about defects and who decides what's a defect, who doesn't, and all the head just arguing with all this stuff, and it doesn't matter. And I love the way you were rephrasing that as a reconfiguration, you know, just a reconfiguration of the energy. Because sometimes what I think is a defect for me actually can serve a purpose for someone else. I don't know. How do I know what's a defect and what isn't? And so I just get up into my head trying to work this shit out. What is my defect? What's my shortcoming? And then it does my head in. So I want to throw the whole thing away and go, this is just making things worse. So I'd love to, if you've got any more thoughts about how to kind of reconfigure that sense of, you know, the power of these words of defects and shortcomings, and this sort of sense of like a divine, perfect human that you've got to match up to, as opposed to just this energy that's reconfiguring itself and serves different purposes at different times, and we can just let it flow through us somehow. That could be a massive shift for how I approach these 2 steps, you know?
Well, just keep coming back here. You're capturing it pretty well. Yeah. So I'm not looking at defects and shit like that as personal.
Yeah, right.
I see them impersonal. Yeah. And I'm a one-trick pony, because I feel if you don't see it, you're going to be looking from the effects of the bondage of self. So I don't have the view that the defects are mine or anything like that. I see that the defects are only basically how you see them at that moment. Like you said, they can be quite useful in other ways. So who am I to know? But I know there's a sense of foreignness that has been called me for too long a time. And that sense of foreignness now registers a foreignness. Yeah. It doesn't register an identification with it. It registers a foreignness when it shows up. And that foreignness, I bring the 6 and 7. Yeah.
Without judgment. Because that's been my experience.
There's judgment here. This is the real clincher. The head is going to make a judgment, but you're not that also. So you're going to bring, not only are you giving what you think the defect of character is, you're also giving the defect of character that keeps pointing out the defect of character. You bring that with it also.
Yeah, and that's the experience of doing these 2 steps, is of kind of trying to almost like using self to sort of defeat self, throwing more energy at it. Oh, I've got to try and it just becomes this cyclical loop where the defects, as they're, you know, quotes, seem to just magnify the more energy that's thrown at trying to remove them. And it just feels like it's a battle that can never be won.
Great. Yes. Now bring all that to 6 and 7. Really, what you just said, because it's a, let's say, a blooming understanding. Give it to the great horticulturist. Yeah. Really.
Yeah.
It's a blooming understanding. You're seeing something, bring it and give it to the great gardener of all gardeners. It's going to bring out the best in that plant of understanding. It planted the seeds itself. Yeah. Let it do the growing and let it do the fucking reaping and the sowing. Yeah. Why not? You'll be much happier for it. You will.
What a relief.
Yeah. It's a large relief. Yes, for sure.
The amount of energy I've thrown at these 2 steps in the past, and the amount of shit that's just grown out of it, trying to fix myself with myself, and the guilt that comes from it of like, oh my God, I need to work even harder to remove these terrible defects and the shit. It's just it's the snake eating its own tail, isn't it?
Well, yes. And remember, to me, the theme of recovery is surrender. Yeah, it's not getting the new balls to change everything. It's admitting you're powerless and relying on spirit or awareness to see what's going on and then bring what's going on to step 6 and 7. Yeah. You're going to be infused with the reconfigured energy. It's going to enrich your day, that same energy that can enslave you through this confusion around 6 and 7. can be reconfigured to enrich your day. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
You'll-
that is,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is the point. This is a reclamation and a recovery. Yes. So this is the process of AA, is to recover things that we actually never lost. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And so yeah, I can see that's a very good share, because this is what happens. I remember I worked with some people and I had to tell them to stop doing inventories because they were doing fucking so much inventory. It was just a form of obsession with self. It was just ridiculous. They couldn't enjoy being sober because they were going over every second, what's my intention? See, this isn't what this is meant to be. This
Yeah.
meant to be is the relieving us of the bondage of self, not reinvigorating the bondage of self and getting a new wardrobe, but relieving us of the bondage of self. Yeah. So, yes, sort of like laying on an operating table, two very important things. Don't get up and don't play doctor. The operation goes well. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I admit, it was great for me, it was very cool because I got struck sober and, I was watching the screen in the head and then the head went blank and then there was a CNN news flash, no story, just a headline. And the headline was, I'm fucked. And then right below that, it gave me a second for that to land. And it said, and I'm not managerial quality. That was it. That was it. And then all the misgivings about that and all the resistance and shit about that has been undone mostly in the years of recovery, basically. And it's still rooted in those two ideas. I'm fucked and I'm not managerial quality. That's great. It's great. It works great. So yeah. So yeah, bro, come here if you like. And yeah.
It's
As
just a
you
really,
know, as you know, the worst thing that ever happened to you can be the best thing. We have no idea. We're looking out of a lens that's very myopic. Yeah. And yeah. So it's best to sort of like in Zen, they would have the highest form of mind is don't know, don't know is a good state of mind. I don't know. Now I know a lot of shit about what I'm not, but that keeps me in a don't know about what I am, which is revelatory, really. Yeah. So you just live and things happen and more gets revealed. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, man. Thanks for that share.
Thank you very much. That was really, really helpful.
Thanks, Linton.
Thanks, Jacob.
Do we have any other questions today? Anybody else want to raise their hand?
She has a question today. What's the question? What's
Hey,
the
yeah.
The question has to do with ball. I know that. Where's the ball? When are we going to throw the ball? When am I going to get the ball?
Right.
And it's waiting for those possibilities. Yeah.
Mhm.
You see her? This is our lovely dog. There she is. A complete knucklehead, but very nice. All right. She's sitting here while we're doing this. And all you can see in her head is ball, 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 ball,
Right.
ball, ball. Treats, ball. Yeah. But she never gets gypped, man. She's never not here, this dog. She never goes out of character. She's dog every second.
Hey, we got Tom.
Bring
And,
Tom in. Bring
Tom.
Tom in for some lashings.
Hi, Paul. I'm not sure what my question is, but yeah, I'm not. But I haven't talked to you for a while, so I thought I'd just say hi and something the previous the guy that shared just previously.
Yes.
I'm a lot like when I heard him share, I'm a lot like that. I understand. And I too had to leave for a while. You know, I couldn't take it anymore. And I had this thing about grumpy old timers in AA. I couldn't stand it. And I went to some other things, and now I'm back in AA. And I guess my question is, you know, in order for me to get back into AA, I kind of had to talk to somebody about all my resentments about grumpy old timers and their shit and their grumpiness and their do your fucking work, you son of a bitch. You know, you're gonna get drunk and rah, 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 rah. I mean, I couldn't stand it. So I had to work with somebody like to look at what me is so upset by all this. And but I don't but in the process of how do I say that? In the process of getting better at reacting to certain kinds of energies in AA that are negative, I get attached to the one who's did the work, and the guy, the sponsor, so to speak, talks a lot about, you know, changing the one who's got the problem. And in that, I find that it's like I get on a wheel that I can't get off of now, and so we're talking about not working together anymore. Me and my sponsor, like maybe taking a break, because you know, it's like it was working for. It's like the dog had there's a lot of dog shit on the lawn that needed to be cleaned up, but at some point you can't.
Yeah.
Either the dog's gonna quit shitting, or you got to get rid of the dog.
Well, yeah, if you keep picking up the shit, you end up finding you're the dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that will take you to another point that you're not the dog, but that's going to happen. Yes.
Yeah.
You'll see with all your picking up shit, there's still shit. You're going to have to realize it's coming from you, picking up the shit. But yeah, Tom, we do what we have to do. The beautiful thing is AA is an open arena. It's a huge umbrella. Yeah. You can go out and figure out stuff or not figure out stuff, and you're always the people may not be that inviting, but the love and tolerance is our code. So I've seen people come into a meeting and go, wow, no one's judging, and I know everyone's judging them in the room at that moment, but the overall feeling is love and tolerance. So the energy of us, when seen as the we, produces different effects. There's a grace in recovery. There is. There's a hand at work in recovery that's got a whole lot of grace, I feel. And how many years have we been going, and you can feel that loving presence expressing itself in our group conscience? Now, how the individual in that group conscious may be thinking it's expressing itself differently, but the overallness overrides the individual. Yes, that's the beauty of it. Yeah, it is. So people go in and they feel accepted at a meeting where no one there is an accepting person. Yeah, it's amazing. So, in other words, our little stories and designs get overridden by the larger event, which is there is a solution and the movement of that solution. And it takes a lot of incredible movements and waves, but you can recognize its imprint. And some of the joy of being sober is that, recognizing the imprint of this move, this feeling, this grace that saved your ass in the process of doing the same thing for others. It's awesome. So, yeah. So, yeah, Tom, the head sometimes gets overbearing about the solution. Yes. And you have to back it off.
It's interesting that when I began talking to you, I said, "Is it okay? Like, maybe I should get a sponsor?" And you were like, "Yeah, okay, get a sponsor." And here, you know, a couple of years later, I'm saying, "Hey, kind of dismiss," and
that's okay. Yeah, exactly.
and that's okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of find when you were first in AA, sooner or later you had to make a step without any assurance there was going to be a stair. Yeah. You did. You had it because you had a lot of faith in the head, and you had to step out of that. and to learn how to face life successfully. You had to. It may have been it doesn't matter if it was small and undramatic or a huge dramatic event. It doesn't matter. There was a stepping out without any faith that there was something you were going to step on. Yeah. But when you do step out, there is a stare. And therefore, there's a point where you grow into conviction about that. So your whole life is about stepping out without any great assurance that it's going to be okay. You just know it's going to be okay. Yeah, yeah. And to make stupid decisions, make great decisions. When all come, it doesn't, like they talked about when you lose interest in self, all your big designs and plans will be seen as little designs and plans. Yes. I think a lot of us need to have that kind of proportionality brought back, because the self has us seeing everything as huge and super important when it ain't. Yeah. Yeah. You do some stupid things, just like we used it the other day about the body. How many things have you put in your mouth that was not good for the body? Does the body shut your mouth? You can't do it anymore. You know what I mean? No, no more. You've overdone it. No, it just farts it out, it throws it up, it does something. The body forgives us of a lot of transgressions, a huge amount of transgressions. Yeah. The head doesn't have that kind of view. There's no mercy in the head. There isn't. But you can find it even in your own life experience. Oh, I ate too much. I saw the pumpkin pie. I ate the whole fucking pie. Does my mouth actually close? And no, it's still open. And then it farts, it does this, and it feels terrible, but it gets back. Because there's an acceptance of what's running the fucking show. A lot more than any acceptance we find in the head. The body demonstrates a whole lot more acceptance of us than the head does. Yeah. That's where the problem resides. It's in the head. Yeah. So faith and thoughts produce mental anxiety. Mental anxiety comes out of strumming the emotion of fear without an apparent threat. So the mental state knows how to play the instrument of fear with what's not happening, but it needs faith in it to do it. And that's where we show up. We are the faith. And right now, many of us are suffering from where our faith is in, which is in the head. Yeah. The program is about moving or allowing a migration of the faith in the head to go to the infinite. That's the name we use it. So it's either, perhaps there's a better way, trusting in the infinite rather than finite self. That's it. Yeah. Admit you can't make that migration, and you'll witness the migration. Yeah. You'll observe you're being moved where you realize you couldn't move. You'll observe you're being moved. Yeah. Just tell the truth about that observing. Has something done for you what you couldn't do for yourself? Has something done for you that you could not do for yourself?
Absolutely.
There you go. Just expand on what you can't do for yourself. And why you don't like maybe those old dudes is because you believe it a little bit. There's an old idea there. Yeah, that's what you have to be, just like. Yeah. And you're going to have to tell the truth about that idea, that belief. It's an old idea. Yeah. It's the way you got reinserted into the herd. Yeah. You don't want to stand outside the situation, and you believe in that mental way, you believe they're right. But it's not true for you. Yes. You have a different drummer that you're hearing, and you got to fucking follow the drummer that you're hearing. Yes. Yeah. And what's the evidence? What's the conclusion? You've been taken care of. Yes.
Yeah, it feels like, and I think it is mechanical, but there's a tendency to drift. It's like drifting back into the mud or something like that. I start to believe while people are telling me about what you got to do, or where you're wrong, and and I start thinking there's something wrong, and
Yes, but
now I think I got to go write inventory.
but that unsuspected inner resource, Tom, is now, you know, that inner resource.
I do, yeah.
Let that direct you. Yeah.
Now, what you said about stepping out
We
is
wouldn't be doing these talks if I had listened to these older people in AA. But when I saw them, I didn't want a lot of what they had. Yeah. Yeah. So
doesn't look like freedom.
sometimes you got to step out. Yeah. To see what's going on. Yeah. Yeah. I have never seen AA shut the door on anybody. Yeah, they've asked people to leave because they were threatening others and shit like that, but the person was let in the next fucking day. Yeah. So, but in the head, you're always being exiled and fucking sentenced and convicted and in solitary confinement. It's insane to let that fucking thing be a warden in your life. Yeah. So, all right.
Amen.
Yeah. I think that's it. Anyone, any other question, Jacob, or we'll say goodbye?
Yeah, I don't see any other hands. I got a quick question for you, Paul.
Yeah.
We have these two terms in AA, like self can't get out of self, but then also you hear like my addiction's out in the parking lot, powerlifting or doing push-ups or whatever. And I guess my question is, are those two statements, they're talking about the same thing though. They're talking about the lower power, aren't they?
Yes.
And then follow-up to that would be, isn't addiction just a manifestation of self?
Well, yes, it is. But see, recovery progresses also.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Recovery progresses.
Mm.
I'm not doing seemingly anything. I'm in the habit of being sober. And that habit allows a lot of shit to happen where I'm not doing anything. I'm not initiating anything, but there's
Yeah.
a lot of peace available. Yeah. Yes. So the idea of I'm not a believer in that anymore, that
Yeah.
the thing is doing push-ups. I think it's inert until we give it energy.
Yeah.
I don't think it has a life other than ours. I don't
Sure.
think it
Yeah.
has a life other than ours. So I remember I was in a program for 2 years and it went into suspension. Yeah, it wasn't yelling and screaming and everything like that. It was quite subdued. And then when I left that program, it bided its time and saw an opportunity and moved back in. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I don't think it's doing push-ups and shit.
Yeah, that's why I think the lower power, that idea of if the lower power isn't active in your life, then your addiction isn't going to be doing push-ups. But also I think it could be difficult for some people to see how our self and our addiction are the same thing, but really addiction is just a manifestation of self. And if self manifests in various ways is what has defeated us, then
Well,
yeah,
let's
addiction
just say
being
this, Jacob, if you want, if people have a minute or two, my humble belief, the first addiction is the mental conditions addiction to this idea of self.
Yep.
Yeah. So I did tons of cocaine. I never thought I was cocaine. I humbly believe we're thinking about life from the drug of self.
Mhm.
We're living a life seen through self-centeredness. So we're basically looking from the first intoxication, which is self. And because of that condition, it drives us to look for relief from that condition, which are the other addictions. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the self travels to all of your solutions, the self travels in that solution and they become problems. Wasn't my first solution to the irritability, restlessness, and discontent which was the addiction of self, was to get loaded. and it worked. I got some relief. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what happened? Self-dom took over, and then it used that relief to fucking forge another form of bondage, which was cocaine addiction, which was a fucking nasty journey. Yeah.
That's perfectly
The
put.
same
Yeah.
thing. So the
Yep.
same thing with people, they've clung on to the buoy of the preserver of spirituality, and then self climbed up on the boat with them, and now their spiritual practices are forming an addiction, a spiritual addiction.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they do not believe they're going to have a good day unless they did their meditation in the morning. So if they miss their meditation in the morning, their head says your day's going to suck, and so it seems. Yes, that's an
That was me
addiction.
to a T. Yep.
Yeah. So this addiction or agitation is going to just demonstrate its agitation wherever it goes. And so sometimes something starts innocently, casual use or something like that, just to feel like you could talk to the opposite sex, and then you're fucking a drunk when you're 34 years old, So I believe this is really the relief from the bondage of self, is really relief from the first addiction. Yeah. And therefore, and then its effects are going to affect the other addictions, the other, let's say, expression of that addiction, like drugs or alcohol or whatever, food, gambling, sex. You're going to see those addictions in a much clearer light if you see their expressions of the original addiction.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
my feeling. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
But when something's really fucked up now, yeah, you got to stop drinking, or you got to stop using. Yeah, you got to render unto Caesar's what Caesar's. You've been fucking this up. You got to stop, or ask for something to help you stop, and then you can start looking at the origin of all this is the self. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's my feeling of and looking at it for years. Yeah, I do not believe there aren't any things that are addictive. We're living from an addictive nature, the parasite. Yeah. So basically anything can be a form or an expression of addiction, like collecting stamps, or you know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not like, oh, I'm in a world with 800 addictions. No, there can be anything can be addicted because of the head. Yeah. There's a solution, bro. That's the good news.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can lose interest in self. It says it in the book.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Losing interest in self is the key. Self can't do that. Yeah. So you better
Amen.
understand the movement of how self has defeated you. You're taking it to be you. That's how it continually defeats us. Yeah. It defeats us before sobriety, after sobriety, during sobriety. Yeah. So, hallelujah, there's a solution.
Hallelujah.
You want, and hey, we're going to be here later with another group, 4:30 West Pacific time. Same link on the same event page. And yeah, that's actually is more specifically to the addiction of self, non-duality, than recovery, because recovery, you can't rush to that without cleaning up the present action, which is drinking and using. It's essential. But in non-duality, they're going to the non-existence of a self.
Right.
Yeah, which is awesome. So, all right.
Hey,
Thanks.
Lebowski had his hand up for a burning desire. I'm sure he won't hold us hostage. Lebowski, you want to come in?
Yeah, I just, you know what? I thought I'll just come back at 4:30 and get first in line and not hold you guys hostage.
No, go ahead, James.
Well, I just want to say, I don't have I take no issue with anything you've said. In fact, it's been quite liberating. And I traveled light for a good decade, and then over the past 4 years, something's happened. And I really love the flu analogy. It just explains to me why over the past 4 years, there's been times when I just, I've been traveling light and sometimes I haven't. And it's just seems like something I catch every now and then. This damn self things come back. Not to use drugs or relapse or anything like that, but to just start thinking like an asshole again,
Yeah.
and to not be free. And then to wake up one day and be free for no particular reason. Like the flu, like I survived the flu. That just worked for me and I really appreciate it. That's why I'm back. I need a refresher course. Love you, Paul. Thanks.
So this is good. So James, at least if you see this as a pattern, then you have a reaction to it and hopefully you don't act out from it and it passes. Yeah.
Hell
And
yeah.
there's probably going to be a lot you're going to learn that may be put to great use in the communication to others. So
That's what I'm hoping, bro.
sometimes you go through shit. Not
it
just to go through shit. It's going to be purposeful. Who wants to get a broken body or something? But that broken body may produce an empathy that wasn't going to be produced any other way. So that's how it had to happen for you to be have empathy. So it gets to its conclusions in a lot of ways we may find offensive, but hey, that's the way it goes. We're not the main player here, are we?
that reminder in itself makes me light, just to remember that I'm not the main player, man. I started playing God again, I don't know what happened, but given enough
Imagine,
time.
James, if you had the wisdom to know that you should lock yourself up for 4 days so you don't do any harm, that would be a great form of knowledge. Instead of trying to do it when you can't do it by going out there and fucking up. So you just know, hey, I'm not feeling great. I better limit my affairs right now and just hang out. And then came back, no scars, no amends to be made. That's
No ruined weddings, nothing.
That's incredible. I mean, isn't that progress?
Oh, hell yeah.
What we're expecting or hoping for is progress, not perfection. Well, here you go. That's progress, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I owe you a lot, Paul. I really do. Way prior to these meetings, going back to the videos. So
Yeah, way back there.
your hair was short, dude.
Yeah, I know. Well, it was also dark, I think.
Darker too, yeah.
Oh, yes, time. Well, whatever. But the point's has remained the same,
I'm glad you're still here doing it, dude. I just, it doesn't, I catch the flu every now and then, so.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. No, it's good to know it's going to pass. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, bro.
Thank you, man. I
Let me
appreciate
say
it.
goodbye to everybody. We got the Lebowski, Kathleen. I don't know if she's home now or in Florida somewhere. She could be right down the street.
I'm home, Paul.
All right. You enjoying it back home?
I'm enjoying being back home, but I just did want to mention to you that I had a nickname given to me at the Alano Clubhouse in Destin, Florida, because I celebrated my anniversary there. And when I walked in that day, they shouted out, "I don't know."
Oh, there you go. Great.
That's my nickname.
I don't know. All right. IDN, IDK. Yeah, all right. We'll go with that. Sean in Minnesota. Nice to see you, Sean. Mickey, the matriarch, watching over all of us. Yeah. Axel. We got I think it's Jacob's here. I can't see it right now. Hallie. Nice to see Hallie again. Yeah. Thanks for dropping in. Ben. Pleasure. Patricia G. Nice to see you, Patricia. Montreal. Yeah, good. Tom, Denver. Miak. Oh, Miak. Nice to see you, honey. We got John. We got Linton. The Isle of Jura. Wow. That's cool. Vegas. Al. Nina. Ah, nice to see you, Nina. Jacob from Hudson Valley. Miss Volkman. Yeah, I'm going with that. Jay, back from his lovely journeys. Mark S, John K, Jules on vocals, Steve San Diego. Oh, Steve, you reminded me. I'm gonna send you Mike Z's info and then talk to him. He'll tell you how to do it. All right. I'll send it to you this afternoon.
Sounds good.
We got Lebowski, we've got Jake J, a phone number, Christine, I think in Kona. Dhruv. Aloha, Christine. Oliver, we got Catherine in Maine, always pleasure there. Rick, Rick Lebau and Kauai. Nice to see you, Rick. You don't dress like someone I would expect in Kauai. Is it cold there today?
Yeah, we're up in Kokay. It's freezing.
Up there, yeah. It's freezing. Well, nice to see you. Thank you for dropping in, man.
No, good stuff. Good stuff. Thanks for sharing.
All right, you're welcome. All right, everybody. I'll see you soon. Again, we'll be here today at 4:30 Pacific time.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Jacob.
Hey.